And what better way to start than with a tied up woman?
Dude, I'm still finishing my coffee. I'm not ready to get thirsty today, okay? Well, Kyle, we are near the end of Stormblood, like properly. We're in the patch content right now. And we've heard that when we get to the end, that we are going to want to get right into Shadowbringers for smile emoji reasons. So we decided that we're going to do something a little bit differently. During Heaven's Ward, we did all of the patch MSQ, and then we took a big long break, and we did what we called our MSQ vacation, where we went and played all of the raid content from Heaven's Ward, as well as the Triple Triad, which is not a raid, but again, like instance side content that was part of that whole patch sequence. We're not doing that this time. We are not doing an MSQ vacation, as we called it during Heaven's Word. We are playing the patch content alongside the Stormblood MSQ, and you actually went so far as, like, no joke, Kyle made a dock that like lives in the back where he lined up, we're going to do this wing at this part of the MSQ because that's the patch that it aligns with. You've put some effort into this, dude.
It's not a perfect system, but I think it's quite pretty.
It's great. I show up and I just have a great time. What I'm trying to say is thank you. Nonetheless, something happened during this, because we're not done. We haven't played all of the patch content. However, we liked the first wing of a raid so much, we just have to talk about it. Before we move on, I do want to say that if you dig Kyle and my work and you want to support the two of us, our channel now has memberships available. So you can get access to our members-only Discord channels, as well as some meme-tastic emojis to use during our live streams, and apparently in the comments of YouTube videos, which is something I didn't know you could do with them. And all the while, you'll be supporting Kyle and myself in the process. So thanks for the support. And if you're already a member, we appreciate you. Today, we're going to be talking about the first wing of the Alliance raid, Ivalice, which is the royal city of Rabanastre, or as I like to call it, Indiana Jones with drama school kids.
Yeah, it's a fun little story. The whole airship players thespian club journeying to save their dad. Absolutely, a little Last Crusade in that way.
A bit, yeah. The dad is sadly not Sean Connery, but who is?
Well, none of these are ever voiced, right? The little side raids.
We did get some voice acting in this, though.
Oh, from the bad guy.
The final cinematic of this first wing is voice acting.
Who dares disturb the slumber of Argath Thadalfus, rightful king of Ivalice?
Nonetheless, now I'm realizing that there's nothing stopping me from making the dad Sean Connery the next time we do a live stream.
Exactly. I think we were doing more of a calculon for him, which did work.
He is a drama student.
One of the first things I noticed about this raid that got me really excited was just the increased camera angles. Final Fantasy, by necessity, I think of just having so much content to create, does a lot of camera 1, camera 2, A, B characters talking back and forth to each other. Really do not mind it, because it's presenting MMO story while I'm reading, so I'm not exactly looking often at exactly what's on screen, busy with the words. But here we saw a little bit of like a comparison shot, one that really framed the two siblings well, showed their height difference, their age difference, showed their perspectives on life. And I'm really looking forward to the update in Shadowbringers that I've heard brings even more of this kind of camera work business.
Yeah, everything just looks good so far in Ivalice. I'm just overall impressed. There was a lot of warnings from the community ahead of time that it gets a little long in the tooth, cinematic-wise and reading-wise. And when we first showed up and it was like, we're dealing with playwrights, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be overly dramatic and long-winded. But I'm really into this. Again, much like Sky Pirates. I got a lot of warnings about Sky Pirates, and it's probably my favorite thing I've done in the game so far. Once again, here I am at the Alliance raid of the next expansion in my first ever playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm absolutely loving the setup for this raid.
It's an interesting combination because it brings together the traveling theater company on a Garlean airship while going through Final Fantasy Tactics lore music, and has boss design from a TV show creator.
It's a lot. I went and looked it up too, and I believe most of, if not all of these bosses are in Final Fantasy Tactics, which is what this is based on. Ivalice itself is in the game. I think in Final Fantasy Tactics, it's a very large landmass, which is it here? We went out to the Garleans area here, right? That's where this sunken city in the sand came from. I think we
just
traveled
teleported there. Were we even in the map?
We went on the airship.
Yeah.
A lot of this, as I understand it, is a Final Fantasy Tactics callback. I haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics. I've played Tactics Advanced a little bit, but that's it. I remember very little of it. It was forever ago when I played this. I can see needing to bring in someone for a visual refresh.
I think that's such a cool concept of having guest creators. I'm not a big fan of like the Animatrix or that Star Wars thing they did because they're so disjointed.
You don't like anthology series.
Yeah, I don't like anthology series.
But you like the Twilight Zone, which is an anthology series.
That's true, but it's got that through line. And I think that's where I don't like, what was the Marvel one, too? That was like, What If?
Oh, I think couldn't stand What If, but...
Yeah, it was called What If.
But my mileage varies. I like the Animatrix, but there's like, honestly, I probably only really, truly like 2 of those shorts. I enjoyed the Star Wars one, but I pretty much enjoy anything with lightsabers. So I'm curious, how did this work for you? Because the designs, going in, I didn't know that Kaita... who was, I guess, the creator and the director of the Garo TV series. Going in, I didn't know that he did the boss designs, but I would say the back half definitely seemed visually distinct to me from what I'm used to from Final Fantasy XIV. The first 2 didn't really seem like they were any different from what I'm used to seeing from this game, but who's the third boss?
Rofocale? Is that how you'd say it?
Oh, I was just saying Rofocale, but the meat chariot... The meat chariot was so grotesque and off-putting that I was like, this doesn't look like Final Fantasy XIV. This is kind of disturbing me visually. So that and also the final boss was almost looked to me very like Destiny. Kind of had that, there's that alien race of Destiny that's kind of Geiger-esque, but they had like the big demon horn kind of situation going on. Those final 2 bosses in this first wing, like, really visually stood out for me, and yet they really worked. So I thought they blended well. They didn't seem horribly out of place while still having this kind of visual flair and distinctiveness to them. So how did it work for you as someone who is typically grumpy about anthology collaboration?
Anthology collaboration, yes, but I find this interesting. It's kind of like a Tim Burton movie. You know what you're going to get.
How?
Well, and more recently, the Tim Burton style has become so outrageous with the aid of computer graphics and enhancements and big heads. But you still know what you're going to get. I have no doubt that there are people on the Final Fantasy XIV team that are full of ideas and could have come up with boss designs and the looks of these enemies. But the idea that you can have someone come in who is treated with that Tim Burton reverence to create the product just sounds really healthy for a team. You can take that infusion of ideas at full value and create something that is wholly unique. Now, they still look like Final Fantasy XIV graphics. They got more and more Power Ranger-y as it went on, but that's kind of that Garo style. I think it really kind of freshened up things without being a burden on the team's execution of mechanics and lore.
There's a lot of references to other Final Fantasies in 14. I'm in this unique position where I am in the middle of my first playthrough, as are you, and we're playing this game publicly on stream. We've got people in YouTube comments, we've got people in chat. So I learn about all of this, but were I playing this by myself in a vacuum, I wouldn't know about this. I don't have a history in Final Fantasy, and I've mentioned this many times. It's hard to think about how I would react otherwise, but I don't think I would ever notice that these were references to other Final Fantasies because they do a really good job writing this into the world of 14. Of there being lore and story reasons why we're going to, in this case, this like secret long lost city under the sands, and it's creepy and otherworldly, and we don't know what we're going to expect. And yes, it is this massive reference and callback to Final Fantasy Tactics. But if you don't know that, if you're just in here enjoying yourself some Final Fantasy 14, I think it totally hangs. It totally fits. It blends. We had this off-stream talk where we're just like, hey, you you just want to do a video about the Royal City? I know we like lumped everything together before, and I was like, yes, please. I really liked that raid. The boss fights were amazing. So let's talk about the amazing boss fights.
It's not fair to have to do one video for like 12 bosses. So let's cut off a smaller piece and really savor the flavors. I did not visually put together what we were battling amongst all the graphics, and granted, I had to turn down player graphics at this point because something happened in Stormblood. Heaven's Ward, I think maybe just because I was healing like in the background and I could deal with the explosions, but being in there in Samurai, I couldn't see a thing. Reduced graphics now for me.
This was my first major group content after I had to wipe my entire computer, which I found out the hard way means nothing in Final Fantasy XIV to save, not even your damn buttons. Which, by the way, what the hell, Final Fantasy XIV? It's like every other MMO, saves your buttons. What's going on here?
You're supposed to like go back it up and like press the button and
so
then
much
import.
work.
Like, I know, you're not gonna do it until something traumatic happens to you. Now you always do it, right? Like you learn your lesson, but the first time is awful.
Did I? I still haven't backed it up. Mateus, the Corrupt. This was a cool starter fight. I enjoy it. This is not the reason that I was super gung-ho to do a standalone video about the Royal City, though.
No, with her extra arms and her big staff, and who knows what's going on with those hips and the drapery.
You're just trying. Are you trying to avoid saying cleavage? You usually get really excited to make a cleavage joke.
I don't think it's cleavage.
If you're a 90s child like we are, you would call that the Jennifer Lopez.
But I know cleavage to me suggests like a pressing together. This is a pulling apart, lifts and separates.
Listen, I'm not just talking this down because I died to the air bubble mechanic. Which, by the way, I really want an add-on where when I do just this fight, it plays the Sonic drowning music from Sonic 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Maybe they could, get a guest creator like that. I thought it was a cute fight. Of all the boss battles we're going to talk about in this video, this was the messiest. There's not a lot of theming here. Why water bubbles in the desert? It looked visually interesting.
Mateus is like an oasis fight in the desert.
Yeah, kind of to wake you up.
It also is kind of a tease to the aqueduct water slide later on in the in the dungeon. Yeah, or the raid. I did like the giant frozen screen effect at the end, or I believe in the moment I yelled, "What the Mario Kart hell just happened?" It was so disorienting your first time seeing that effect. I didn't know how to take it. For me, let's get to the reason I really wanted to do a standalone video, which is Hashman, bringer of order. Really, it's just bringer of pillars that fall the wrong direction, but I'm okay with that.
What a cool fight. We did have to do a cute little walk here too with like some mimic chests and a red chocobo that unleashed meteors or some madness like that and nearly killed all of us.
It did kill me. I died to the air bubbles and I died to the red chocobos.
This guy was so ridiculous. What an awesome pile of mechanics. What the hell is going on with those fist weapons? I'm not even talking like impractical, just like I don't even know how they work. Is he supposed to stab us on the sides? Are they swords? Are they conch shells?
It does look like he's wielding oversized mollusks.
What is he doing?
I don't know, but he's so extra.
And they give him the power of flight, apparently. This just had so many cool mechanics.
And you died to all of them.
I believe so, yes. I think I sampled each death possible. Like an old Dead Space game. I really got to enjoy the death graphics of each encounter. But what a cool pile of stuff.
Put that on the back of the box for just Final Fantasy XIV in general. Just
quote me.
Kyle Ferguson, 2022. What a cool pile of stuff. You can go right next to my excessive but well executed. That's really all the fights in here, but this fight in particular. The sheer sense of scale as the pillars rise up and then he cuts them and then there's this sense of dread of like, okay, what direction is it gonna fall? Oh no. Okay, we're out of the way. We're cool. This is a memorable boss fight. This is something it's like, I know if you are doing your first playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV and you're going through the MSQ, you don't have to go unlock this stuff. You don't have to go do it. And the game doesn't go out of its way to point you in that direction outside of you should just be paying attention to the blue quests because they all unlock something. It's an MMO. You played other MMOs. Maybe you're rushing to endgame, which I wouldn't recommend, but I get it. You shouldn't miss this one. I think missing the Royal City would be a travesty. This content is so well done.
It represents a step up in the raid design, a huge leap up. Maybe in the future, if you like did Endwalker and came back and saw this, it wouldn't be that incredible. But there's just so much fun video game nonsense going on. Like beating up the pillar he's standing on. It's so weird cactus thing from Mario. Having to slam out those individual slices of cake to get access to the boss. Then predicting the fall down with him just lifting the hell off and flying away. It's just really, really satisfying. It's fun to be in there. It's fun to mix your job and its mobility with the boss's mobility here. And it's chaotic, but with this size of a raid, divided in 3, so you each kind of have your own segmented helpers. Your lack of skill doesn't feel like a massive burden. And we did these on minimum eye level, so they lasted a little longer, but we never really hit a wall in this content.
No, and I think we got really lucky. There were a few folks in our group this time because we don't run with the static or anything. We put a code out, and whatever night we're raiding, people just get to join us, and we ride or die, and sometimes we die until we ride again. But we had some folks that knew the mechanics, or knew them enough at least for specifically like this fight where you had to split into your groups when the arena gets cut into like 3 pie slices, and you got to burn the orbs down before something horrible happens. I'm just having so much damn fun exploring all of these extra pieces of Final Fantasy XIV, like along the way. Like you said, I'm glad that I'm experiencing it now as opposed to getting to the end of Endwalker and then backtracking. Because it's fun to see it in the moment when I'm already playing other Stormblood content to see what else was available at that point in time in this game. All right, it's time for bonus round of awesome thing that isn't a boss. That water slide thing was really cool.
Animation-wise, you're importing assets you already have, but this was just huge. And we got divided by group, and maybe some trash fight got removed or something, but it was just visually pleasing. The group A is over there, group B and C, and we all got divided via water slides, and then we all came back together. There was no point. There literally could have been a load screen. But I'm glad there wasn't, and it gave the place size and depth, and I felt like I was actually exploring this ancient city aquifer.
In Heaven's Ward, there would have been a loading screen. That's a really good point. I got so disappointed all the times in Sky Pirates where it's like, look at this amazing staircase extending into this Gigarian hell. And as you start to walk up, it load screen. It's like, no, that looked cool. I wanted to do the walk. This is so much. It didn't need to be there. And it looks so good. That final fall down that final waterfall, and you see that like the ancient underground city ahead of you before we start the second to last of our 2 final boss fights. It's cinematic, it's epic, it has again this massive sense of scale. The PS3 died for this. You want to talk about the meat chariot?
The weird campus water horse chariot. Man, is he fused? Does he have legs, or is he part of that thing?
He certainly looks fused.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was an experiment gone wrong, and he's like sewn together after the fact, but
it's got a face on the chest too. I don't know what in the sweet nightmare of Power Ranger hell is this, but I love it.
It reminded me of the final boss of the Triple Triad, or the Warring Triad.
Got Triple Triad on the brain, huh? You've been playing some cards.
Warring Triad. You have Triple Triad on the brain, and I am your friend.
But this is where that started getting really unique, and I love the mechanics of this boss. I thought the figure 8 attack that the chariot would go riding on was super cute. It could have been a circle, it could have been just a line shot, but the fact that they programmed in this little set of wheels going about was really just flavorful.
Well, it made it a very specific tactic to avoid it, because the first time it happened, I just do what I always do and just start strafing as far away as I can. And I ended up at the wide part of one of the ends of this figure 8. And once you realize that it's like, oh, if I just barely move and stay close to him, I'll be at the skinniest section of the intersection of this figure 8, and I won't get hit. And it makes you feel like a boss when, or at least me, I get very pleased with myself when I learned that I don't need to move very far to miss things. I love standing as close as possible to something that hurts you and not getting hurt. When I learned that I could as long as it's not a persistent effect, that I can step back into a telegraphed attack after the highlighted painted area disappears, I loved this game so much. I fell extra in love with this game on that day.
That's the whole joy of Dark Souls or any of those kind of hitbox-based games, is knowing just how close you can dodge something and how much you can really roll into that crotch. And these telegraphs and mechanics are that tight. I don't feel like I've ever been cheated once I know what's going on. Of course, there's some things that are like, wait, that was an AoE, but it kept going off. Not, after the visual. Sometimes it gets you just on your lack of knowledge.
This was a super fun fight. The other part, I was really smitten by what I call the cage fights. When those hexagons appear, the ads appear in the hexagons, and you're like, why is there a line drawn around these these ads? Because you and I, we go in blind. We don't research the raids before we do it for the first time. Oh, because energy walls spring up, because you need to get in there and divide off again into your groups so that you have enough damage to burn these ads down, because if you don't get in there soon enough, you get locked out by those walls that appear. That was just really fun and charming, and I liked that bit quite a bit. Time to talk about Argath.
Argath Thadalfus.
Just a pile of graphics.
Thadalfus. Yeah, he is an absolute pile of Xbox graphics. I think that's why your mind went Destiny, because it does look very Xbox.
I mean, it's still ornate in a way that reminds me of Japanese games.
Got that Rayman thing going on where his hands aren't attached to him.
Oh no, why'd you say that? Now I don't like this as much.
You don't like Rayman?
I hate
Rayman's
Rayman.
fine.
I think Rayman is the stupidest looking thing I've ever looked at. I think of Vector Man, which was green.
I liked Vector Man.
On the Sega Genesis. Were you a Sega kid?
It was really hard. No, I just played it a lot at Target.
Oh.
I hated having to jump at the same time to fire to hit certain angles. That was miserable.
Metroid did it well, and other games didn't do it as well as Metroid.
Yeah, Metal Slug. Yeah, Metal Slug was really good too.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. Anyway, Argath. Hey, dude, you want to talk about a boss where you and I never got the mechanics for the entire fight?
I gotta compliment this part, because it could have been 1, 2, 3, which would have given up the gig, but the fact that they did the countdown with weaponry added a layer of confusion that is so satisfying in a game that doesn't have a PTR. I mean, of course, there'd be the first progression raid that got in there and made the blog post and everybody knows very quickly, but I love the idea that we can enter day one a content release with some mystery provided by the game's developer. And that was an interesting way to kind of hide the Simon Says-y mechanic with swords instead of 3, 2, 1, go.
It's a nice addition. It took me way too long to figure out that it was a countdown.
I never even got it in the initial go.
I did not get the true god, false god, blue eyes, red eyes indicator mechanic thingy at all. And yet somehow survived through. Our healers were amazing.
We got carried by some good healing.
Yeah, we really did. But it's interesting now, though, that I know that, because by the very end, we were made aware of this mechanic, which is really the crux of this fight. It helped me on a future fight.
Oh, and he also had that confusion run mechanic, where your directional pad, or your Wasuda, became different directions, and you had to run out of the AoEs.
Yeah, I don't think I really picked up on this, but I managed every time to, like, narrowly by the skin of my teeth not get hit. But it was a shit show. My brain didn't, I don't think I ever really understood what key was doing what, but I don't know, I just kind of found a way to get there. Yeah,
Third Eye, the samurai defensive ability, was working extra hard in this fight. I got hit by everything.
Yeah, this fight's a lot. This is a fight I really want to redo. There's two fights here I really want to redo. I want to redo this fight now that I know how it works. And I just want to redo Hashman because he was just so freaking fun and rad. That's when I know I'm really smitten by instanced content. is when I leave, and like a good ride at a theme park, I'm like, I cannot wait to go again. This is one of my favorite pieces of instance content that I've played so far. This is up there with Sky Pirates for me.
It was really good. It was really thematic. I mean, we both love Forbidden City types. Heading into the Oasis metropolis of old was very intoxicating in that way, but it also just had really, really fun bosses. And I agree with you. I want to do this again. I'm really excited to see what the future wings hold. If this was just raid number 1 of the Alliance series.
We're interchanging it, like for our stream schedule. We're, kind of doing a sampler of everything. And I am enjoying Omega, but I was a little bummed that we weren't returning to Ivalice on the following week on our stream schedule. So I'm really digging this.
It's a bit of a break until we get to the second part. That didn't come out till 4.3, which means there might have been some extra work to be done having to get the ideas from the guest designers and incorporate them into the game. But I'm really excited to see where this goes in the future. A lot of these, I'm aware, are other Final Fantasy creators or other Japanese studios that are working with Square Enix and Yoshi P's team to create these ideas. I think it'll be a long time before we see something like an American studio participate in this. But just that freedom of creation, that exchange, that collaboration, gives me a very healthy vibe from the game. That egos aren't so big that we can't take other ideas in, that ideas can't be paused or put on the side, that there are such a plethora of ideas. I've said it before, and I know it's kind of outrageous, but I have been impressed by how much Final Fantasy content there is. And that sounds ridiculous because there's soon to be 16 games, along with all of the mobiles and everything else that's ever been invented. Like, there are games that constantly go off about how rich their lore is, and they're back, and like, well, we pulled this from this game. Like, they just do it. At no point did this game sit me down and be like, by the way, you should be really happy this is all from Final Fantasy Tactics. I heard that on the side. At no point did this game make a big deal of it because it was incorporated right in. It's humble in a way.
I've never really had a huge desire to go and play other Final Fantasy games. The references that exist in this MMO, I'm enjoying enough that it's making me want to go and play these other Final Fantasy games. And I played Kingdom Hearts. But even Kingdom Hearts, I was like, yeah, I know who these characters are. I know enough about these characters. I don't need to go play the games. But this, there's just something about it. And it's also, it's the excitement of the crowd as we're playing. Everyone's like, oh my God, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. And you're like, oh, is it good? Is it that good? I didn't have a PlayStation. I had an N64 until I got a PS2. So all these things are running around my brain. Like, should I go play this game? Is it good? Is it worth playing? Do you think it's worth playing? I'm talking to you, dear watcher, right now. Actually, comment below. Do you think I should play Final Fantasy Tactics?
I'm gonna get it on my phone.
Is that where it is? What's the best way to play it here in modern days? What's the legal and moral way to play it?
Yeah, no, I've heard you can straight up buy this game in its entirety for your phone. The advanced version is a completely different game, apparently.
Yes, it is. I have played a little bit of it, and it ain't like this. So anyway, I love this. Not promising we'll do a standalone for every wing. We'll definitely return to Ivalice for a video in the future. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Watch our stream.